Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into something really core. What it means to live versus, just what life really covers and how our own outlooks kind of shape all that.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. A listener sent in some really interesting materials, bits from vocabulary guides, some exercises, and this audio track.
Right, the audio track with four different people talking about work, relaxation, their idea of a perfect day,
Mm.
their whole attitude, really.
Exactly. So our goal here for you listening is to sort of unpack these different takes, pull out the key words and ideas.
And it hopefully sparks some, aha moments about how you approach life. In a world that's often pushing productivity, what does a life well lived actually look like? Let's explore that.
Okay, so a good place to start might be that vocabulary resource. It makes a pretty helpful distinction right off the bat.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Well, it defines life
Right, yeah.
simply as, the time between being born and, well, death, the whole span.
For your duration.
Yeah. But living, that's described as two things: the state of actually being alive, and also, crucially, making a living, earning money to support yourself.
Ah, okay. So being alive and funding being alive, that distinction actually sets things up nicely, doesn't it?
It really does. It frames how people approach using that lifespan.
And that leads straight into the first viewpoint from the audio, the first speaker talking about work.
Hmm. Their take was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, basically that people have always worked hard to make a living, and you still have to work hard now to, well, achieve anything.
It's a very direct perspective, and that phrase itself, work hard for a living, popped up in the audio on one of the practice sheets.
You did. It makes you wonder what's underneath that belief.
Yeah.
Is it about societal expectations or personal drive or just reality?
Could be a mix. I mean, there are strong cultural ideas about effort leading to reward, plus, the basic need to provide.
Definitely. But then speaker number two throws a complete curveball.
Oh, absolutely. A total shift.
Their idea of relaxation, of feeling really alive, comes from extreme stuff. Paragliding, deep sea diving.
Yeah, living life on the edge, as they put it, finding that intense feeling in dangerous situations.
And they specifically mentioned attitude impacting their quality of life. Now, quality of life, that's broader than just having stuff, right?
Exactly. It's about happiness, well-being, satisfaction with how life feels, not just what you own.
So one person finds meaning in consistent hard work, the other in these high-intensity, maybe risky moments.
It's a stark contrast. It does make you think, do we all need that kind of extreme input to feel truly alive? Or are there maybe quieter ways?
That's a really good question. Which brings us to the third speaker. Their outlook is, well, much more cautious.
Almost pessimistic, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely leaning that way. They seem reluctant to even make plans because they expect things will just go wrong anyway.
Suggesting this underlying feeling that life tends to disappoint, that plans get spoiled.
It's quite a sobering view. Makes you think how much past letdowns can really color how you see the future.
It really does. It highlights how powerful our expectations are. Where one person sees a setback as a challenge, another just anticipates failure.
How much is the situation and how much is the lens we're looking through?
Precisely. Which leads perfectly to speaker number 4, who offers the complete opposite perspective.
Right. Total contrast again. They're all about optimism. Treat every day as special, live life to the full.
They even use that classic analogy, the glass half empty versus half full.
Yeah, really emphasizing how a positive outlook can fundamentally change your experience of life.
It's striking, putting speaker 3 and 4 side by side.
Yeah.
It just shows the sheer range of human attitudes towards essentially the same world.
It really does. Our internal viewpoint makes such a difference. Psychologists talk about cognitive biases, right? That tendency towards optimism or pessimism.
Exactly. And it's not about right or wrong necessarily, but just understanding our own default setting can be quite revealing.
Okay, so those are the personal stories. Let's look at some of the specific language that came up in the materials your listener sent. The vocabulary around living and life.
Good idea. We saw some really practical ones like one-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, and standard of living, living expenses, stuff that's just part of the nuts and bolts of daily existence.
Absolutely. They tied directly back to that idea of making a living, the financial side of things.
Then there's all walks of life, which reminds us how diverse experiences are.
Mm-hmm. And lifelong ambition, those big goals that can give life direction.
And cost of living, of course. Always relevant.
And it's interesting how some phrases directly echoed the speakers. Like you said, live life on the edge was speaker 2's whole thing.
While speaker 4 was all about live life to the full. It shows how these common phrases aren't just cliches. People really embody them differently.
They really do. The practice exercises also gave some useful synonyms, didn't they? Offering slightly different angles.
Yeah, like strong feeling being equated with intense sense.
Or taking part in linked to participating. Subtle shifts, but they can matter.
And some of those definitions were quite insightful too. Personal fulfillment described as a feeling of doing what you have always wanted to do.
That resonates, doesn't it? Moving beyond just the daily grind, it's about aligning what you do with who you are, your passions.
Exactly. And insight defined as a deep understanding. It values going beneath the surface.
Then there were simpler ones like feature, just meaning aspect, helps with clarity.
And the breakdown of free time enjoyment, recreational activity, hobby, leisure activity, all pointing to how we spend time outside of our obligations.
And that whole topic of free time, of leisure, leads us neatly into that other text excerpt, doesn't it? The one focusing specifically on leisure.
Right, it brought in a psychologist's perspective.
Yeah, arguing that leisure isn't just fluff, it's not just killing time, it can actually provide personal fulfillment.
How so?
By giving us insights, there's that word again, into what we genuinely enjoy and value. It connects right back to that definition.
It's interesting they suggest leisure can have similar effects on people's broader well-being as things we usually think of as more fundamental, like work or family.
It really elevates the importance of leisure, doesn't it? Challenges the idea it's just secondary.
And the examples given weren't all, healthy outdoor sports. Card games, arcade games, computer games.
Right. Activities that provide a strong sense of competition, apparently fulfilling needs for belonging and social collecting. It shows these needs can be met in really varied ways.
Then there was the economist's take.
Calling leisure a prize aspect of people's lives. They acknowledge the money we spend on it, sure.
But they emphasize the real appeal often lies elsewhere.
Yeah, particularly in outdoor recreational activity that offers an opportunity for self-expression, something completely different from the daily routine.
That contrast with the routine feels key. It's like escaping the everyday track.
From an economic view, you could say it provides high utility or satisfaction, especially that self-expression part.
It makes sense. Leisure as a space to be a different version of yourself, maybe.
Perhaps, or maybe just a more complete version, a space to explore things work doesn't allow for.
Okay, so looking back at those definitions quickly, a feeling of doing what you have always wanted to do, that's clearly personal fulfillment.
Absolutely. Underscores its importance again, and a deep understanding that maps straight onto insight.
A feature is aspect. Simple enough. And something done for enjoyment and free time is our recreational activity, hobby, or leisure activity.
Got it. And finally, things you do every day. That definition really just highlights routine, doesn't it?
Yeah, and maybe underscores why breaking that routine through leisure feels so necessary for balance.
Right. Which takes us to that final section we looked at, the one discussing vocabulary mistakes, but also offering this broader commentary on modern life.
Ah, yes, that was quite thought-provoking. It raised the point that even if our standard of living has gone up,
Materially, yes. More stuff, maybe better services.
our quality of life might not have kept pace because we're always too busy to enjoy what we have.
That hits home, doesn't it? That constant sense of rush, of pressure.
It really does. And the idea that technology, all the media we consume, might leave us feeling confused and dissatisfied instead of more connected or informed.
And the pressure to succeed at work, potentially squeezing out our personal lives.
There's a definite tension there. The text points out we work so hard for that standard of living.
But maybe at a very high price, as it says? The price being that leisure time, potentially?
Right. And it even suggests that leisure isn't just good for us personally, but maybe even for business, through better employee well-being. It's not just a cost, it's an investment.
That's a crucial point. Happy, rested employees are generally more productive employees.
And that final thought in this section is quite challenging.
Which bit?
The idea that if you do decide to prioritize leisure, to consciously choose activities that bring joy and fulfillment.
Then you shouldn't regret missing out on potential career steps.
Exactly. A direct challenge to that work-first mentality that's so common.
It really forces a reflection on priorities, doesn't it? What truly makes for a rich life, beyond just the job title or the bank balance.
So wrapping up this deep dive, wow, we've covered a lot of ground. Different takes on work, on relaxation, the huge impact of attitude.
And how leisure isn't just an optional extra, but potentially vital for well-being, and that personal fulfillment idea.
We've also unpacked some key language around living versus life, seeing how it's not just semantics, but reflects really different ways of being.
Yeah, moving from just existing to actively participating, thinking about quality of life and what fulfills you.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. Thinking about all these perspectives, the hard worker, the thrill seeker, the pessimist, the optimist, and this whole discussion about the value of leisure versus modern pressures.
Mhm.
What does living life to the full actually mean to you?
That's the real question.
And maybe, just maybe, what's one small thing, one tiny adjustment you could make, starting today, to bring your daily life a little closer to your own definition of fulfillment? Something to think about.